Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. Starring the Jet-A Jerry O'Lace, Rocket J. Squirrel, and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
Well, it all started when Bullwinkle swallowed a banana containing a formula for a silent explosive called Hush-a-Boom. Now, Boris is trying to get it back by hook or by crook.
I got a choice.
And in our last episode, the boys had received a mysterious invitation to a free weekend at a mountain lodge.
Wait a minute. Why would Lake Kitchi-Itchy Lodge offer you a free weekend for no reason at all?
Who cares? Never look a gift kitchy-itchy in the mouth, I always say.
It was 17 hours later that they arrived at what they thoroughly believed was to be a carefree weekend.
No, just a free weekend.
Are you sure this is Lake Kitchi-Itchy, Bullwinkle?
Not really, no.
There's no lake. There's nothing here but that big old run-down house. We better go back.
But at that moment...
For he's a jolly good mooses, for he's a jolly good mooses, for he's a jolly good mooses, which nobody can deny. Welcome to Kitchi-Itchy Lodge.
Gee, who are you?
Who else? I am Egbert Kitchi-Itchy himself.
Kind of a funny name, isn't it, Rock?
Kitchi-Itchy?
No, Egbert.
If this is really a lodge, where are all the other guests?
There are no other guests. It's the middle of the slow season, isn't it, Honey Bun?
Yes, Egbert, darling.
When is your slow season?
From 1926 to 1982. But look at it this way. I can spend all my time just taking care of you.
Thoughty, mighty thoughty.
We better be careful, Bullwinkle. I'm afraid he's after you for some reason.
Don't be such a worrywart, Rock.
Just the same, I'm not going to let you out of my sight.
You hear that, Boris? Squirrel is not going to let Moose out of sight.
We'll see about that.
And he did, too, for after Bullwinkle had freshened up...
Well, Moose, you look fresh as violet. How would you like to step out on porch to see the view?
Why, I think that would be lovely.
Bullwinkle would have stepped out onto the porch, but for one thing, there was no porch. Plunging down 2 stories, the endangered moose landed in a carefully prepared tub of cement waiting at the bottom.
Now what, darling?
We fan him until he's dry.
And that being a fast-drying cement developed by some gentleman in Chicago in 1928, it wasn't long before...
Hard as a rock. Now to crack him open. Stand back, Honey Bun.
With a well-placed blow from a hammer, the cement split down the middle and fell into 2 perfect halves.
Big deal. So now what you got, Boris?
A perfect moose mold. That's what.
And putting the cement mold together, Boris poured in a lifelike when dry plastic. When he had finished...
Boris, you have made a dummy that looks just like other dummy. Moose.
Right, and that is how we fooled Squirrel.
Yoo-hoo, Bullwinkle, where are you?
Here comes Squirrel now. Quick, we take Moose to basement.
Bullwinkle, I thought I told you to wait for me. Bullwinkle? Bullwinkle, why didn't you answer me?
Now, Moose, I got you where I want you. What do you say to that? Why don't you answer me?
Why didn't you say something, Bullwinkle?
Why does he just stand there like a dummy?
Dummy? Darling, you don't suppose.
Oh, boy. Please, Moose, don't share up your mouth.
Could it be that they got the dummies mixed up? We'll find out in our next episode entitled 2 Mooses Loose, or Which One Has the Phony?
There once lived a king who almost became famous for inventing the game of golf. It occurred to him one day that it might be fun to strike a ball with a stick, so he did just that. The ball flew into the air, sliced, and fell into a deep thicket.
I goofed.
Each time he hit the ball, the same thing happened.
I goofed. I goofed. I goofed.
I beg your pardon, sire, but what is that you're doing?
Why, it's quite simple. I'm playing a round of goof.
He was close, but not close enough. He did, however, become famous for something else. It happened one morning as he was playing 17 holes of goof, when his ball, which sliced as usual...
If ever I catch the blockhead who broke my window,
I am the blockhead who broke your window, and you will what?
Your Highness, Well, I'll just have to say, you certainly are truthful.
The word of this deed spread through the kingdom like wildfire.
The king told the truth.
He told the truth.
Yes, we have a truthful king.
That wasn't all, for when the king said to the butcher...
I'm sorry that I broke your window, and I promise that I will pay for it out of the tax money.
Early the next morning, the...
Hear ye, hear ye! All butchers in this shop. It's time to pay the weenie tax.
Already, it seems like I paid the weenie tax just yesterday.
You did, but it's time again.
The butcher paid the king the 20-wrinkle weenie tax.
That is for the window I broke yesterday.
The king kept his promise.
Kept his promise.
Kept his promise?
Thus it was that the king became famous. The king was very proud of this reputation, but it was soon to lead him into a tragic situation. For in the woods, just out of town, there lived an old witch who was the best evil witch in the land. One day, as she was in the woods walking her bat, she chanced to see the king who was out for his daily round of goof.
3!
And the witch fell in love.
Oh, boy, are you good looking.
Please, don't talk to me in my backswing.
That's a nasty slice you got there, but I don't care. I'll marry anyway.
What are you, a comedian or something?
No, I'm an ugly old witch.
I noticed that. Now go away. You're goofing up my goof game.
The witch knew that the only way she could get the king to marry her was by trickery. So, mixing a special brew, she was waiting when the king came out to play the following day. No sooner had she drunk the mixture when... she turned into a beautiful princess. When the king approached, looking for his goofball...
Pardon me, ma'am. Did you happen to see a... Boy, are you good looking?
I know. Do you want to get married?
Heck yes.
Promise?
I promise.
Happy as the king hurried her back to his castle to prepare for the wedding. Unfortunately, the spell that she had cast upon herself was a short one, and when the clock in the tower struck 12, the spell was broken.
Surprise, honey bun.
You. Oh, good grief, I'm a victim.
A handsome victim, and you still have to marry me because you promised.
It was true, for being the king who never broke a promise, he knew he was trapped. Quickly, calling a meeting of his royal advisors, he demanded that they find a solution to his problem.
There is only one way, Your Highness. You must get the magic wishbone from the Black Castle, but it will be very dangerous.
What kind of dangerous?
Well, you've got to defeat a dragon, a few ogres, you know, the usual thing.
Well, just tell me where to go. I'll do anything.
In less than an hour, the king was ready and on his way. The mere thought of having to keep his promise to marry the witch gave him the heart of a lion, and in less than 2 hours, he had defeated a dragon, an ogre, and a troll.
Hey, what's a big idea?
And a troll. Sighting the Black Castle, he dashed inside, and there, just as he had been told, he found the huge magic wishbone. He turned to his own castle just as his wedding to the witch was about to start.
Come on, sweetie. They're playing our song.
Wait a minute. Before we go, I want to make a wish.
A wishbone? How nice.
Ready?
Ready, honey bun.
They gave a tug. And just as it usually happens in fairy tales, the good guy got the biggest half.
I got my wish.
Good for you, honey bun. What did you wish?
I wish that I had never promised to marry you. So now I have never promised to marry you, and I don't have to marry you without breaking a promise, if you know what I mean.
As confusing as it was, she did know.
Why, you... Well, just for that, I'm going to cast a spell on you that folks will talk about for years.
And when the smoke cleared, she had disappeared. Well, now, it goes without saying that the king never made another promise. He played goof happily ever after. And one day, he even made a hole-in-one.
I goofed.
I am Mr. Know-It-All. Today, for all you golf addicts who are having father-in-law trouble, I am going to show you how to shoot par. Arriving at the golf course, we seek out the services of a caddy, preferably a big, strong one.
Hi!
Or a little weak one, as the case may be. First, I shall demonstrate the neophyte golfer's worst habit. Hand me my driver, caddy.
Yes, sir.
Now hand me a cup of tea.
Cup of tea? What are you going to do with that?
I'm going to tee off. That done, we now hit the ball.
Gee, you missed.
I know, which proves you should never drink when you drive. Having finally hit the ball, we discover it has landed in some thick woods. Therefore, I choose an iron for my next club.
Here you are, Mr. Know-It-All.
That isn't an iron, you silly caddy. This is an iron. The iron will not only flatten out your swing, it also flattens the golfer, or golfee.
Uh-oh. Tough luck, Mr. Know-It-All. It went right into the sand trap.
The only effective way to get the ball out of a sand trap is by blasting.
Mr.
What do you know? A hole in one. One moose, that is. Buenos dias, caddy.
Where are you going, Mr. Know-It-All?
I'm going to play in a tournament down in Tijuana.
Tijuana? I never heard of a tournament down there.
Oh, come now. Everybody's heard of the Gulf of Mexico. Today's lesson is mighty important, remember?
Bullwinkle is a...
Not that lesson. This lesson.
Snidely Whiplash, that scandalous, nefarious, odious, obnoxious, villainous villain of the Northwest, had outdone himself. He had become so shockingly despicable that he couldn't stand himself.
You are rotten to the core, Snidely Whiplash. Rotten, rotten, rotten. How did I ever get started tying ladies to railroad tracks? If I could only stop. But I can't stop. I've got this thing.
I've always told you, Dudley, that Snidely Whiplash was a bad egg.
Yes, you have, Inspector.
Well, I have invented a Snidely catching machine.
And it's a beauty. How does it work, Inspector?
Well, you see this dummy woman here next to the railroad tracks?
Yes?
Well, Snidely isn't going to be able to resist trying to tie her to the railroad tracks. He has a thing about that.
So what will happen?
Try it, Dudley.
All right.
Oh, Father, I am bored.
Why don't you go read a book?
Is that all you can tell me? Go read a book? Well,
Sometimes, Dudley, I don't think you realize just how hard it is being inspector of the RCMP, having to constantly make decisions.
Could you make a decision about getting me out of this thing?
Nell took her father's advice and did read a book. In fact, she read hundreds of books. And since the only books the RCMP had were books on law, Nell developed a fabulous legal mind. Meanwhile, Inspector Fenwick and Dudley put their Snidely catching machine to work.
You don't know how I hate myself for doing this, but I've got this thing about tying ladies to railroad tracks. Caught at last. Oh, Inspector Fenwick, you don't know how happy you've made me. I've been a fiend. If I'd kept it up, who knows where I would have ended.
release that man.
What?
You got no habeas corpus, and by judicature, this man has right to bail.
I've told you, Nell, about using language like that. There'll be no profanity here.
I am here to see that justice is administered.
Please, Nell, really, I'm better off here. I'm a lady-tying fiend.
Aha! Forced you into admitting that, eh? What did they use, a rubber hose? Well, never mind. It will never stand up in court, Whiplash.
In court? Oh, confound you, Dudley. Standing there with your placid, noble face. We may lose this case.
I may have a placid, noble face, Inspector Fenwick, but just how can we win it?
Let me ask you this, Dudley. How do you fight logic?
Well,
By superior deception.
deception, sir, but we're the good guys.
Superior deception. Now, I'll be the prosecuting attorney and you'll be the judge. Don't you see, Do-Right? We can't help but get a conviction.
But, sir, is that playing it the Canadian way?
Order in the court. Will everyone please rise?
Prosecutor, are you prepared to state your case?
I am, Your Honor.
Defense attorney, you prepared to state your case?
I am, Your Honor.
And so Inspector Fenwick brought forth witness after witness, professing to the nefarious, odious, obnoxious, villainous character of Snidely Whiplash. And every time Nell Fenwick tried to object...
I object, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
Her objection was overruled. It looked like an open and shut case. Everyone in the courtroom knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Snidely Whiplash was as good as behind bars. But then Nell spoke.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I've come to speak not of the man you see before you, charged with a heinous crime of tying little old ladies to railroad tracks, but of Snidely Whiplash, that little Canadian boy running through the Canadian forests with no mother or father to take care of him, all alone, whose only pastime was to tie the mountain daisies together and to decorate the little forest animals, for they, ladies and gentlemen, were his friends. Tying things became a mania with him. He started to tie all sorts of things, Boy Scout knots, Boy Scouts, and finally ladies to the railroad tracks. Your Honor, we know tying ladies to railroad tracks is wrong, but who's to blame? If we could have guided this poor barefoot boy, his only friend, a bunch of wild daisies, where would he have been today? Ladies and gentlemen, that barefoot boy is not on trial here today. You are.
Nell! Oh, Nell, you're right. We are to blame. I find that barefoot boy over there not guilty.
You mean I'm free to go?
Yes, idly, but one thing.
Yes, Your Honor.
When you're running through the Canadian forest,
Yes, Your Honor.
pick a daisy for me.
Our story thus far is simplicity itself.
What else?
Bullwinkle swallowed a secret formula for a silent explosive, and Boris is trying to get it back. Luring Rocky and Bullwinkle to a deserted house, the villain was able to obtain a cement mold of the gullible moose and thus make a lifelike dummy which looked exactly like Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle, will you stop standing there like a dummy and speak to me?
What would you like me to say, Rock?
You pulled another boo-boo, Boris.
I noticed that, but Boris Badenoff never gives up. Back to the basement.
I still think Mr. Kitchy Itchy is up to no good. I'm going to snoop around and see what I can find out.
Okay, and I'll step out on the porch for another look at the view.
Meanwhile, in the basement...
Boris, what you doing with dummy moose?
There now, isn't she pretty?
Yeah, pretty ugly.
Not only that, but I fixed it up so that she walks and talks. Watch this.
Hello, handsome. This is a recording. Hello, handsome. This is a recording.
Pure genius, darling.
Now comes best part. I got bomb inside. When Moose makes date with Dummy...
Then it's booby trap.
Right, and it's about to trap a booby.
So Mr. Kitchy Itchy is after Bullwinkle. I gotta get upstairs, but fast.
But Rocky wasn't fast enough.
Come, Natasha. All we got to do now is find Moose.
That was easy because Bullwinkle was just getting up off the ground outside.
The view is lovely, but it goes by so fast.
Oh, Moose! Somebody here I like you to meet.
Who's that, Mr. Kitchy Itchy?
Bullwinkle, meet Jane Moosefield.
Jane Moosefield? You mean the Jane Moosefield?
Who else? I will push button, then leave you two to get acquainted. Run, Natasha. Bomb goes off any minute.
My goodness, the Jane Moosefield. I don't know what to say.
Hello, handsome. This is a recording.
Friendly little thing. Leave us go to the kitchen. I shall fix us a bite to eat. My arm, madame.
Meanwhile, Rocky had regained his senses and was rushing to find Bullwinkle.
Golly, I hope I'm not too late.
Would you like me to crumble up some crackers in your soup, Miss Moosefield?
Hello, handsome. This is a recording.
Hello yourself. How about the crackers?
Bullwinkle, that's only a dummy.
Who cares if she's smart? Get a load of that figure.
You don't understand. I gotta get you away from here.
And with that, the plucky squirrel pulled Bullwinkle out of the old house, and just in the nick of time. For it was then that Jane Moosefield, ticking loudly, crossed the room to the closet where Boris and Natasha were hiding.
Bomb should have gone off long time ago. I wonder what... Somebody's at door. Yes?
Hello, handsome. This is a recording.
Well, hello! Look, honey bun, it's Jane Moose.
Good heavens! What was all that about?
I don't know unless it had something to do with you remembering everything you ever ate.
Oh, stuffy nonsense.
By the way, what did you eat last?
JXQTRLP.
Bullwinkle, that doesn't mean anything.
Sure it does. It means I ate alphabet soup.
But unbeknownst to our heroes, a faraway figure is watching them on a super snooperscope.
Pennsylvania must have that formula. We shall use our most ruthless, brutal, cold-blooded scoundrel.
You mean?
Yes, I go myself.
Well, it looks as if our boys have picked up a #1 enemy. Tune in next time for The Moose and the Monster, or Nothing But the Pest.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say.
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible.
That's not all.
The fingers get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle?